Hi guys, it's Lynn here. Hope everyone is having an amazing day. Now guys, welcome to the end of March Polytunnel Cacti and Succulent Plant Update. And guys, I have lots to show you. Unfortunately, some good, but a lot of bad. Now, as you guys know, this has been the first year that me and Hans have overwintered. Oh, hear them seagulls. Oh, lovely. The benefits of living by the sea, guys. Now, the first time we've overwintered our plants in a polytunnel, and obviously we have the heater there that we never let drop below 4. So it's usually kept at a minimum of between 4 to 8 Celsius, usually around the 7 Celsius mark. And during the day, as you can see, when it's nice and sunny like this, we switch the heater off, so no worries. We only really need to have it on when it drops too low overnight. And guys, I have to say the weather's been horrendously cold all through this winter. So this has been a real test. As I say, here in Ireland, the biggest problem is not the temperature, although it has been bitterly cold. But as I say, we have the heater on. Our problem is, as you can see, the humidity. It really is damp, and it's the damp and the cooler temperatures that hurt these cacti, not necessarily the cold. And I'm going to start off first with the negative and then show you the positive. Now, this is the polytunnel update. As you know, me and Hansi have a lot of plants indoors as well, mostly the euphorbias and other succulents and cacti that aren't as cold hardy. They need sort of a minimum between 10 and 15. So obviously, because we keep this cooler in here, they're kept indoors. So that's probably put the part 1 on. So links up above to that video of our indoor cacti and succulent plant update. And this is purely the polytunnel. And I'm going to start off here first of all. I'm going to show you the baddies first of all. Unfortunately, the bad news, because it's always best to get the bad news out of the way. Now, these are the Ripsalis. And as you can see, there's been a lot of damage here. They're really... One thing I've learned here, they really are not cold hardy in any form, guys. As I say, this is usually kept around no lower than sort of 7C, and it certainly never drops below 4 in here. But this is sort of all dried up damage. Now, the good news is the plant can be pruned back. As I see, there it is there. So in the spring, I'm going to be giving this, well, it's spring now, guys, but where the weather gets warm, I should say, I'm going to be giving that a pruning right back and see if I can restart it, possibly again. And as you see, it's got lots of healthy other parts of it, and it's actually coming into bud. So there's loads of tiny little buds coming on there. So that's good news. And as I say, everything is really late taking off this year because the weather has just been so cold. It's been unbelievable. And I'm going to start off with the baddies first. And this is the bad news, guys. This is one of Hans's clyster cacti. As you can see, it's completely keeled over. And this has literally done this the past 2 days, guys. Unfortunately, I did think most of the plants had come through pretty much okay through the winter. But as things sort of starting to slowly warm up now, this is often when you see signs of damage coming out. Damage usually can come out weeks later. So this is probably what's going to be showing up in the next few weeks. Time will tell, but this is completely keeled over, guys. And look, completely gone, soft as anything. So Hans has had this plant for many years, so that's pretty devastating. So that's a goner, and we're going to be taking that out today and seeing if there's any parts we can save from it, but it's unlikely. And so that's the first disaster. The other disaster is here. This has also gone sort of soft, as you can see here. Now, the good news is this is definitely savable. That can be cut away, and the rest of it seems to be pretty much okay. As I say, it's the damp that's the biggest problem that's hit these plants. It really is the nightmare here. It's definitely not the cold, because we have not let it go cold, but they've been used to being indoors, you see, and that's the biggest problem with overwintering plants in this country outdoors. And this is the other devastating thing, guys, here. That is, as you can see, that big yellow browny looking thing here is one of my Trichoceras scopicolias, and that's usually very winter hardy. So I really don't know what's happened here, but it's completely gone at the top. And the good news is they are easy to save from cuttings. The second part of the plant is green, so that should be savable. I'm going to be taking that in the house later today, chopping it back, and treating the bottom as a cut-in and throwing the top part away. Obviously, I don't know what's happened there because they are very cold hardy. But for some reason, it's possibly the damp, I don't know. But that's sort of bad news, but it's savable, which is a shame. And this is the other bit of bad news, but again, I'm hoping it's savable. Now, this here is one of my Pilocereuses, and yep, they're not cold hardy at all, guys, which is one of the reasons why we overwinter the majority of our Pilocereus in our kitchen, because there has been really nowhere else to overwinter them. And this, sadly, this one I've had in the when I used to live in Waterford in the Southern Island. I used to have in the conservatory, and it always used to drop 2 degrees Celsius, and I never had a problem with it. But of course, it was indoors, and here I think the damp, as you can see, it's touching the top of the bubble wrap, and that's what's happened there. It's got black at the top. Too cold, too damp rather than too cold. Pilocereus are really not that hardy. I shouldn't have kept that out here, but I say it's a big plant. There wasn't really anywhere else to put it, and I didn't think it'd have too many problems. And the thing is, the sad thing is about the stem, there's also little black brown spots all on it as well, damp damage. Now, the good news is with Pilocereus, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to cut the top of that off there and save the rest of it. As you can see down the bottom, there's actually a join there where I had to do that before years ago. It went black at the top, exactly the same thing as there. And it calloused over and it regrew again, so I probably think that it should be okay. So stay tuned to a video when I'm cutting the top of that off too. And the rest of them seem to be okay. That's some of the Trichocereus there. What a Honsicereus is, they seem to be okay. Pachycereus pringlei as well. Everything else seems to be okay. That's always been a bit scabby, that plant there. It's going to be treated again when the warmer weather comes. I keep saying spring, but it's spring now. It's hard to believe, guys. It's been so cold. And sadly, this plant also, now this is one of Hansi's Cacti he's had for many years. There's 3 in a pot here. This is completely gone at the top again, soft, and that one completely gone. But the good news is, I've noticed this morning, this is pretty firm, so I think that can be cut. So there's going to be a lot of cutting up plants today, guys. Whether I'll have a chance to put the video on, it might be on a few days after this one, but I will film our cutting up process trying to save these, and they should be savable. It's usually the growing tip gets knocked back and they will regrow, but it's just a shame to see this, I have to say. Disappointed because the plants have been getting through the polytunnel so well so far, but we've just had this very cold spell so late in the year, you know. Really has been terrible, guys, and we've had to have the heating on in here constantly, and we're still losing plants. It's probably just not a good idea, but we just have to do what we had to do. Me and Hansi had to move house for reasons when we were living in Southern Ireland. It was just, the house was a nightmare to live in. It was so mouldy, and we had to move, and we're doing the best we can do. And out of all the plants we've got, they seem to be pretty much okay. This as well, cold damage here. Again, Pilocereus, not at all cold hardy, guys. It really does need to be kept warm. As I say, I'm going to be cutting. This isn't necessarily rot, that is literally just from the cold, so that can be cut back. There'll be a lot of pruning going on when the weather gets a bit warmer, guys. A lot of pruning with the plants. Now, that's probably the bad news out of the way. I'm just trying to find if there's any more bad news, but that's basically it. And that is, yeah, this is the other one I want to show you. This one as well. I'm pretty sure this is a goner. Sadly, this is my one of my Gymnocalaceums. Has the most beautiful flowers every year, but as you can see, the colour of it is just not healthy. Spines are falling off. In fact, that's gone. You can just tell. I noticed it a couple of days ago, and I just thought, oh, I hope it's going to be okay. Maybe just a bit of damage. Now, this is usually very cold hardy. I've always kept that cold in front of the window in the conservatory with that heating, and it's always been fine. As I say, I think this year has just been exceptionally cold. It's just the house moving, everything's been too much. So that's a goner, terribly goner, definitely. And yep, Hansi took that out this morning. One of his plants also rotted right back, sadly, very fast. You know, with rot, it just happens quickly. You can't, and that type of rot, I mean, there's no saving that plant there. It's completely inside. With some of the big, taller type of plants, the good news is with them, you can often cut the tops off them and they will just carry on growing. So, but as I say, that's probably the bad news out the way. The good news is some of the epiphyliums here are coming into flower and, well, bud, I should say. Now, I'll just show you some of these Schlumbergers still flowering away. These have been flowering since Christmas and they are gorgeous. They seem to be doing really well in here. They are very cold hardy. And here, these has all been recently flowering there. Look at that, sort of coming to the end now, end of its flowering. But looking very beautiful. They've been flowering for weeks on end. And let's just start off with some of the epiphyliums. So normally the epiphyliums would all be in big bud by now, certainly by the end of March. But I think they've just had such a knockback because it has been so cold. And hopefully when the weather starts warming up, it will trigger them into producing more buds. But there is signs of very tiny buds forming. And I have, for example, I'll show you here. There is buds all on this one here. This is a lovely red flowering one, not exact sure of the type. It's like an Akamanii, but not quite the same because we have that one. But that's coming into bud, so that's going to be lovely, and that's good news. Now, this is my Akamanii that's always in bud this time of year. No signs of buds on this. And I also, because I have no experience before of actually growing cacti in this type of polytunnel. You see, this is one of the green coated ones. We couldn't get a transparent one. It may sort of have an effect on even affecting the light levels. I'm not sure. So, you know, this is only sort of temporary for us. We just would eventually like to get a proper greenhouse, but obviously mid-hands are going to be saving up, and because we do rent, we don't know how long we're going to be here for. We may have to move in the future, and we'll probably make sure we get probably save up for a proper greenhouse. But if we get them through what we can do here, the polytunnel has been a godsend, I have to say, because we've been able to overwinter them here, and as I say, 95% of the plants have come out with flying colours, so that's the good news. Now there's buds on the Ripsalis here, so that's great to see. This plant has little tiny beautiful white flowers, so that's got buds on it, which is really, really good news. And as I say, here more Ripsalis, all full of little buds. And Kalanchoe Wendy in beautiful little bud there, so that's great news to see that in bud. And as I say, some of the epiphyliums, I'm just going to show you these ones also coming up into bud as well. I noticed it the other day actually, guys. Yeah, there's some more buds forming on there, on the epiphyliums on here too. And also here, this one, little buds forming all along the edges. So, and they do form pretty fast. As soon as we get a bit of warmer weather, that's going to trigger them coming into bud, which is going to be very good. So wonderful to see. And here as well, more buds. And no signs. It's been very quiet for this time of year. Now, we've had a lot of the succulents coming into flower. Normally my Ray Bootia Perplexer usually is all in bud now, but there's no signs of buds whatsoever. It's very, very strange, guys. So maybe, is it just down to the fact change of environment? I mean, they get plenty of sunshine when we get it. As you can see, the sun's coming through now. It's very early morning. But I don't know if any of you guys are experienced on growing plants in these type of green coated polytunnels. Do they affect the light levels? I mean, it's very bright in here, so they get plenty of sun. So I really cannot see it being that, to be honest. But only time will tell. And as I say, because it has been so cold, maybe it just needs to be triggered a bit more for the sunshine to start them all up. And a lot of the plants are very shriveled, as I show you here, because we've kept them very on the dry side, and because we haven't really started to water any of them yet, that also could be a thing. Normally I'll be starting to water them now, and then that suddenly triggers them into flower. So that could be another thing. It might just be late flowering. As I say, time will tell. And buds on this epiphylium here, which is good. This is one that was gifted to us from the Cactus Society, so there's buds on there. So it's good to see lots of buds on some of the epiphyliums, which is good news. And now that's the other one there, the Pegasus. That one didn't flower last year. I would love it to flower this year, but again, still early in the year, so just have to be patient, I think. And this has been flowering non-stop, guys. The Schlumberger truncata, that is beautiful. So that's basically most of the stuff coming to flower. Now we have some of the succulents flowering. As I say, we have the Kalanchoe Wendy. Now we have the Echeverias as well. They're all coming into bud, which is really good news. To show you on there, yep, there's some buds forming there, look, which is great. And also here we have the some of the aloes too, forming buds, which is really good news. The Echeverias there, all coming into bud. all coming into bud there. So the succulents seem to be reacting very well to being in here, which is really brilliant to see. And as I say, maybe the cacti just a bit slow to wake up because it has really been cold and snowy for this time of year. But it's going to be interesting to see how everything goes. This one has also been sort of a bit knocked back at the top. It's got like all black. That's going to have to be possibly cut and treated as well. So watch out for a lot of cutting videos, guys. It's disappointing to see that a lot of the cacti are not doing as good as I hoped. But the succulents, funny enough, which aren't normally as cold-hardy, seem to be loving it in the polytunnel. And maybe it's just because they are more sort of early spring, late winter growers rather than the cacti. So just hope that the next video I do, guys, we're going to have a lot more coming into flower in a month's time in the update video. But that's really it. Just so the seedlings down here are doing well. Everything else seems to be overwintering well. And as I say, out of all the plants we have, as you can see, we have a lot of cacti and succulents in this polytunnel. Then really, we're very lucky that everything seems to be doing pretty much good in the bigger picture. Loads of beautiful buds here on the echeverias, which is so good to see. But normally this one as well, this the monkey's tail, the Cactus, Cactus Hildy Wintera, usually also has buds on, but there's no signs either there. Now, things are a little bit quiet than what I hoped for this time of year, and there's been a few losses, as I say, which has been disappointing to see, as in here and other ones. But sometimes it just has to be. That means there's more room for more. And me and Honzi have got another polytunnel. It's a smaller one. We're going to put that one up in the next few weeks when the weather starts to warm up. We was hoping to be able to put that up by now, but it's still been so cold. And we're going to have a lot more space in here to rearrange things. And we're probably going to go through things with a tooth comb and possibly say goodbye to any plants that really are not doing too good and are unsavable. As I say, this one here also isn't looking good. We've had this for a while now, so I think it gives us more room to keep the ones that we really want to grow and not keep sickly plants, because we have a habit of holding on to things and trying to save everything. But you know, at the end of the day, it's all about growing. You have to be realistic here, and you only want to have healthy plants and not plants that could infect the rest of your collection. These are the monkey puzzles. These are doing absolutely brilliant, guys. They're very healthy. Seem to be loving it here. So, guys, that's it really. There's not much happening with the carnivores either. They're still pretty much asleep. To show you here that the butterworts are starting to come through a little bit there, but they're more or less resting. But everything else is not doing brilliantly, really. Let's just hope that next month there'll be a lot more in flower and bud. So, guys, thanks so much for watching. And as I say, if you haven't seen the indoor houseplant collection, they're doing a lot better than here, I have to say. Links up above to that video, because that's part 1 and this is part 2. And thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you wonder what that little stall is there, that's my little step stool that I stand on to water the epiphytes and also to keep an eye on them, checking for bugs and everything. So, guys, I want to send you loads of love, heaps of happiness and tons of plant power. As always, from Ireland. And until the next video, guys, bye.